everything you want to achieve, every hope, every aspiration, every dream, everything you want to do within your organizations and within your department, it's all going to be with and through people.
How many of you have clients who are great friends of yours? I would hope so. How many of you have friends that you work with? Raise your hands. Yeah, except for him. He's like, no, you don't understand what office I work in. Of course you do. Of course you do. And the key is we know that those great relationships, those great business relationships that also happen to be your best friends, some of the people you care, some of the people you love, those individuals happen to be some of your best clients. How many people in here are in sales? Raise your hands. I hope the answer is everybody, right? We're all in sales. How many people are single out here? Yeah, you're in sales too, okay? We're all in sales. It's your job to move your relationships from here, stoic, static, foundational business relationships, to real, deep, personal, intimate relationships that are caring, that are there for each other, where you want to go that extra mile. That's the kind of stuff that success and joy is built off of, right? Right? You get in your own heads and you think that you got to be perfect. You think that people come to you because they're expecting so much from you. You know what? They want to trust you. The only differentiation in this marketplace, the only differentiation in financial services is you. It's not your products. Yes, they're clever. Yes, your performance is above average. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Because as soon as the next competitor walks in the door and talks to somebody, all they've got to say is one little thing. It's like, oh, well, Northwestern this. And all of the credibility and the exceptional nature of who you are as a company and the brands that you go out the door. Because at the end of the day, it's the relationships that define your success. It's the relationships that define your product. You define your product. And it's not all the fancy stuff that goes on behind. It's this stuff.
You're here because you want to improve yourselves. And you have aspirations, you have dreams, you have passions that you're trying to achieve. And you're here to get a jump start to that. Well, share that with people. What are your passions? What are the things that excite you? Where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? There's nothing wrong, particularly in an environment like this. No more small talk.
How many people out here have a child somewhere between the ages of 1.5 and 3? Raise your hands. There's nothing more passionate in your lives than that child right now. Watching that child blossom and grow, or grandchildren of that age. Raise your hands. Same thing. Same thing. Look at that. Look at that smile on that man's face. George, I mean, you just lit up when I asked you about your grandson or daughter. Every one of you knows that when you reach out to the world and you share your passion, you're inviting people in to do the same with theirs.
What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to stand up and I'd like you to find somebody that you haven't met yet, or at least you don't know that well, and just talk. I don't want anybody to introduce themselves. You don't care about the division. I don't want you to know how many years you've been here. I just want you to talk about what are you passionate about. Spend 2 minutes having that conversation. Go ahead.
We were looking for the perfect presenter to kickstart this networking event for America's best and brightest entrepreneurs, and you did just that. Within moments of taking the stage, you had all 800 of our CEOs on their feet and talking. It was a highlight of the event. John Coton, Editor-in-Chief, Inc. Magazine.
Hello. Hello. She winked at me. How fantastic. Hello. She's fantastic. You want to come up and wave at everybody? Want to come up and wave at everybody? Come on. Yeah, she does. She wants to come up and wave at everybody. Look at this. You want to wave at everybody? There you go. A pleasure. How could you not be passionate about that? What you just experienced, that fear and trepidation of actually being vulnerable, but then once you got going, the ease with which, and more importantly, the person sitting next to you, I guarantee you, how many of you started caring more for that person as they began to share? I mean, you're prejudiced. Don't raise your hands because some of you might not. The point is, of course you do, that's human. The more you let your guards down, the more vulnerable you are, the more transparent that you are, the more more obvious it is that you're actually a person. The pinnacle of intimacy, and I'm going to right now walk you through something called an intimacy pyramid. Every sales call, every relationship, whether it's personal or professional, has to make its way up to the top of the intimacy pyramid to be successful. And at the tip of the intimacy pyramid is deeper mutual understanding. Two people who really get each other. How many of you, if you asked yourselves really, how many people really understand me? How many people really get me? It's a gift. It's a blessing. We spend our entire lives seeking that soulmate, somebody that we can find who really, truly understands us. The women are out there sitting there like, yes, he finally gets it. The guys are like, let me write this down.
How many of you in here know somebody that you would have liked to have gotten to know better, but for whatever reason, that individual just had this wall around them and you just couldn't get through? How many of you ever known such a person? Raise your hand. Yeah. How many of you are married to that person? Here's the advice, if I could be so precocious to give you advice. Here's the advice. Don't be that person. I guarantee all of us, there are people on our organizations who think we're that person. We know what that feels like. We know what it's like to want to need to aspire to, get closer to another individual. But that last mile of intimacy, that last sense of humanity and closeness, you just can't break through that person's shell. We shouldn't be that as leaders. If you're going to reach down, as Nick suggested, if you're going to bring people into you and allow you to be candid and to some sense even foster confrontation that's healthy in the organization, you've got to create, and it's your obligation, a fertile environment around yourself that welcomes people in to be fully themselves, to be flawed, and to be vulnerable, as we all are.
From meal to meal, I live in fear of not having Splenda. You know, because that pink and that blue stuff just doesn't do it for me. The only joy in my life right now is a cup of coffee with that little yellow sweetener in it, all right? And I worry that my next meal, I'm going to go to some place that's not going to have Splenda. So you know what I started to do? And I this is embarrassing, but I noticed out that I steal Splenda. I stole your Splenda. I'm getting paid a good gig here, but I stole your Splenda. I'm the little old woman from Palm Beach now that goes around with a... You know, but that's a struggling mentality. It's, you know, it is what it is. Look, we all have this stuff, but here's the other issue. That same struggling mentality, I'm sure, is stifling the growth of my company.
Keith has long been a leading marketing innovator. His way with people truly makes him a star. In his message, he has taken his gift and created specific steps that are easily followed to achieve great success. Robert Kotick, Chairman and CEO, Activision.
In the room, in the green room in the back, walked Richard Branson, you know, from Virgin. And I'm sitting there, and I'm so excited because I've always wanted to meet Richard Branson. And I got up out of my chair, and I started walking over to him, and I choked. And I went and sat down. And I went and sat down because I was sitting there thinking, look, with Jack Welch sitting over there talking to Colin Powell, if they see me over there fawning on Richard Branson, they're going to know that I don't deserve to play in this sandbox. You know, I wasn't one of the big boys. I didn't feel as good as the rest of those guys. And I sat and I thought to myself, read your damn book. So I got up. There's a chapter in the book called Audacity. I got up and I walked over and I said, Mr. Branson, I got to tell you, you walked in the room and I was intimidated. I've been wanting to meet you for a long time. And he looked at me and said, well, it's nice to meet you, Keith. I'm like, you know who I am? He's like, no, you're wearing a name tag. This isn't about a transaction, folks. This is about people and their dreams and their struggles and their fears and their aspirations and their passions and their kids and their families. That's what you do. You know that. And you do it better than anybody else. But it's about real intimacy. It's about real relationships. But you've got to be willing to be that yourself.
And it's a pyramid. You start with sharing the passions and the excitements and who you are and all that kind of good stuff that gets you at ease. But if you can't share the struggles, I guarantee you, as you sit around, there are people whose, parents struggle with Alzheimer's. There's, individuals whose businesses aren't exactly where you want them to be, or careers, etc. All this stuff is going on, and you need to be able to share that with the people around you to create that fertile ground of a relationship. So I'd like you very quickly to stand up and talk to that exact same person, but this time stretch yourself a little bit. Talk about some of the things you're struggling with, some of the things you're worried about. If you can't do it in here, you're not going to be able to do it out there. If you don't do it out there, I promise you, you won't have the intimacy in your life that you need in order to generate the true relationships that will be there for you, in times to come. So start that conversation right now. There are so many people around you that want you to be a success. People right here. You've just established a relationship like that, instant intimacy with an individual you didn't even know, and you started caring about each other. That's how easy it is.
How many of you found that the thing that the person was sharing with you was something you had experienced yourself or had full empathy for? Raise your hands. Like all of you. Get over yourselves, you're not unique.
If this entire group just decided that as you walk around, go to this break and say to yourselves, I want to make everybody here successful. Everybody I talk to, I'm going to try to figure out a way if I can make them more successful. Right now, the break is an opportunity. Work the breaks. Don't go back and check your email. That's what Blackberries are for in here. You should be doing your email in here while this...
I've seen Keith Ferrazzi in action, and he is a master at building relationships to further the interests of an enterprise. He's dynamic at sharing his knowledge for those who want to learn the secrets of this important executive art. Dr. Klaus Kleinfeld, CEO, Siemens AG.
I was young, I was probably, 8 or so years old. My dad and I were driving down the street in Pittsburgh, and it was Christmas time, and Dad had been unemployed for 6 months. It had been a particularly tough time for us. And I had wanted this big wheel. I don't know if you know what that is, like a little plastic wheel toy. And Dad saw one in someone's trash along the side of the road. Now imagine what it takes for a 55-year-old proud steelworker to pull his car off the side of the road with his son in the car to go pick up trash for his son's Christmas present. But he did. And my dad always used to teach me, Keith, don't ever be afraid to ask. The worst anybody could ever say is no. So the lesson of audacity, it's actually, that lesson is not something that was new to me that day, but the lesson that was new to me was the lesson that I learned from the woman who came to the door, because Dad was so proud and had such high integrity that he didn't just go and grab it and throw it in the back of the car. He walked up the sidewalk and knocked on the door, and the woman came to the door and she said, well, of course you can have the big wheel. In fact, my grandkids have recently moved away, and we've got lots of other stuff. We've got some bikes. We didn't have the heart to throw those away. Would you like the bikes? We've got a go-kart. Would your son like a go-kart? I had the best damn Christmas. I thought about that recently, and what I thought about was, think about how that woman must have felt Christmas Eve, doing her dishes in the kitchen. Think about the joy my father gave her. Yeah, sure, that woman made our Christmas wonderful, but think about the joy my father gave her by just reaching out, having established a basic level of intimacy, and allowed that woman to touch us and to help us. There are people around you today, sitting next to you, back in your offices, friends in your church, members of your family, that long for you to be successful. They would gain so much joy out of seeing you be successful. Let the people around you help. Let them help. Give them the joy. Enlist others. Don't just be generous, but also be receiving. Have a great day.
But I thought that was just tremendous. I sat there myself thinking, this is one of those people that you just wish you had met 20 years earlier. It was very, very powerful. Outstanding. Outstanding.
I want to get a real quick understanding for who I'm talking to in this room. So do me a quick favor. One of the following shapes I'm about to read, I'd like you to put it in your head real quick, and just one of them. So a circle, a triangle, a square, or a Z. You got it? One of them? Some of you look a little confused. That means you can't figure out which one of those, and that says something about you as well. You got it? Circles, raise your hands. Not a surprise. Not a surprise that a large number of individuals here are circles. They tend to be fairly out-of-the-box thinkers. They tend to be individuals who really embrace people, and they embrace sales. So that's fantastic in a room like this. Although, unfortunately, you tend to be a particularly undisciplined group of individuals if you're circles. How about the triangles? Raise your hands. Oh, now that's interesting. Keep them up. Keep them up. Anybody sitting next to a triangle? Just be careful. Triangles will do absolutely any. I love this, and this guy still has his hand up. I've warned you to be careful sitting. He's like, I don't care. Triangles, they'll do anything to get to the top of an organization as quickly as possible. The most ruthlessly ambitious people in this room. Make sure you get their business cards. Squares, raise your hands. Oh, no, this is good. Good. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 accountants in the room. Good. Squares tend to be the individuals that use circles. You desperately need them. All right? These are the individuals who embrace process. You know, they're actually the ones entering data and names into their CRM systems. What are we left with? Oh, yeah, the Z's. The Z's. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't raise your hands. Oh, not a surprise that Bob Kerrigan's girlfriend, Kelly, raised her hands. Kelly, dear, you should know better than this. You know, Z's just preoccupied with booze and sex. Good God. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not. Z's tend to be totally the out-of-the-box thinkers. These are individuals who say, all these normal shapes, circle, triangle, squares, forget it. You know, that's not where I'm going to go. I'm going to do something totally different. Let me tell you, when the book was originally written, the book is called Never Eat Alone. When the book was originally written, it had a very different title. The title of the book was, to me, what still resonates as to what I want to say to you today. The title of the book was, You Can't Get There Alone. You can't get there alone. Everything that you've achieved that you're proud of today, every great achievement, for like the Z's that was getting up this morning, but for the rest of you, you know, it was those major accounts. It was, you know, achieving the success that you've had in your personal life with your families. It's those wonderful children of yours. All of those great successes of your life have come to you with and through other people. With and through other people, the friends, the significant others, the coaches, the team members. I mentioned to one of your leaders in the back of the room, in the green room just a second ago, I said, you know, you've been at this for 24 years. What keeps you going? He's like, it's the development of people. Every day I wake up, he said, it's the development of my team that gets me up in the morning and that makes me passionate about what I do. It's those kind of people that are there for you. And here's what I'm going to suggest to you. How many people in this room have dreams and hopes and aspirations and want to achieve a heck of a lot of stuff between now and when you pass out of this world? Raise your hands. Yeah, come on. Of course you do. Of course you do. You wouldn't be here at an event like this if you didn't have great aspirations and great dreams, whether those be personal dreams for your families or for your accounts or for your clients. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Of those individuals who have those dreams, there's 25 people probably in this world. They're going to change your life. Literally a handful of individuals in this world, they're going to make the difference between success and perhaps failure or regrets that you may have in the latter part of your life. It's the relationships in your life that make you a success. So if that's true, then let's talk about relationships. What are the words you'd use to describe the great relationships, the great business relationships of your life? Give me some words you might hear. Trust, fantastic, thank you. Some others? Tact, interesting. Mentors, I heard collaboration, I heard win-win. Those are all good words, good solid words right over here. Now let's over here park some of the words that you'd use to describe the great personal relationships of your life, the significant others, the best friends of your lives. Now let's assume trust and win-win and collaboration and those apply. What are the words you'd add to it? What's that? Love, good. Support, interesting. I heard friendly, I heard fun. How many people in here are married? Oh, that's why. Just curious why the word passion hadn't shown up yet. Just fun, passion, excitement. Those are the kind of words that you use to describe the great personal relationships of your life. But here's the aha. Here's the big lesson. The great business relationships of your life are the great personal relationships of your life as well sometimes. At least I hope they are. There is no reason why the great business relationships can't all be moved 2 degrees over here to become the great personal relationships. How many of you have clients who are great friends of yours? I would hope so. How many of you have friends that you work with? Raise your hands. Yeah, except for him. He's like, no, you don't understand what office I work in. Of course you do. Of course you do. And the key is we know that those great relationships, those great business relationships that also happen to be your best friends, some of the people you care, some of the people you love, those individuals happen to be some of your best clients. How many people in here are in sales? Raise your hands. I hope the answer is everybody, right? We're all in sales. How many people are single out here? Yeah, you're in sales too, okay? We're all in sales. Recognizing that we're all in sales, we've all walked into an environment where we've been selling and the person's braced against the desk for the sale. Anybody been in that kind of position before? You know, they think of you as just some commodity individual, some faceless, nameless individual trying to get in their pocketbooks. We've also walked into sales environments where you can pick up the phone and say, hey, George, I got to let you know this afternoon, I got to cancel our meeting because I forgot that my son's recital was today and I'm getting breathed on in a real bad way by my significant other and I am not going to be able to make it. Here's my cell phone and can we, catch up over the weekend? We know what it's like to sell in that environment. And my point is that selling in this environment is an environment that not only gives you greater success, but it gives you greater joy. I don't know about you, but I want to be living in this environment, not that one. So if the great relationships are what make you successful and make you more joy-filled, then I guess the question that I have for you then is, how do you build those? There are 2 great words that you have to remember for all relationships: intimacy and generosity. That's it. It's really simple. This afternoon in a breakout session around 2 o'clock, we're going to be getting into the details of managing your personal relationship action plan. But right now, I want you to get the mindset and understanding that as you walk out into the world, I want you creating an environment around yourself that invites those 25 pivotal people into your world as you walk out into the world. And you do that with intimacy and generosity. Intimacy starts with being genuine. There's a business partner of mine, Mark Goulston, who wrote a book called Get Out of Your Own Way at Work. And Mark talks about walking into a meeting with an attitude of exhale. I think it's a neat idea. Just for 1 second, for a moment, take a deep breath. Exhale. One more time. Isn't it amazing how the energy just sort of settles in you? You get grounded in a more positive way, and you become more genuine when you exhale. Versus like living up in your head with all of the gears spinning and the tension in your shoulders, etc. But if you can show up in this world and just be genuine, it's a good first start at creating intimacy. And by the way, I define intimacy. the pinnacle of intimacy. And I'm going to right now walk you through something called an intimacy pyramid. Every sales call, every relationship, whether it's personal or professional, has to make its way up to the top of the intimacy pyramid to be successful. And at the tip of the intimacy pyramid is deeper mutual understanding. Two people who really get each other. How many of you, if you asked yourselves really, how many people really understand me? How many people really get me? It's a gift. It's a blessing. We spend our entire lives seeking that soulmate, somebody that we can find who really, truly understands us. The women are out there sitting there like, yes, he finally gets it. The guys are like, let me write this down. Being genuine. But the next level up is something kind of special, and it's sharing your passion. Showing up passionate and excited for why you're here, for what you do, for what matters to you. How many people out here have a child somewhere between the ages of 1.5 and 3? Raise your hands. There's nothing more passionate in your lives than that child right now. Watching that child blossom and grow, or grandchildren of that age. Raise your hands. Same thing. Same thing. Look at that. Look at that smile on that man's face. George, I mean, you just lit up when I asked you about your grandson or daughter. Every one of you knows that when you reach out to the world and you share your passion, you're inviting people in to do the same with theirs. And when they invite themselves to let go and tell you what they're passionate about and excited, they're getting one step closer to deeper mutual understanding and intimacy with another individual. You've been here for, oh gosh, maybe, 24 hours or more already? Some of you have been here since Sunday night. And you've been having lots of conversations. Some of them are what I call small talk. How many people in here, like me, hate small talk? I hate it. Or work in a room. It's called work in a room for a reason. It's work. It's painful. I don't want to do it. The next time you walk out into that conference hall, walk into another room, one simple thing I want you to do, I want you to find out what other people are passionate about. It doesn't take much. All it does is asking the question. So, like, what excites you this week? You know, for the Z's, you might curtail a little bit of your answer. Let's try it out for a second. What I want you to do is I want you to find somebody that's sitting around you that you have not met yet. And I want you to make an introduction of yourselves. And you're not going to talk about how long you've been with the company. You're not going to talk about what office you're from. That's not what's important. What's important is, what are you most excited about? What are you most passionate about in your life? If that happens to be business, great. If that happens to be personal, that's fantastic. But have a conversation on where your passion is right now, your excitement this week. Go have that conversation. You get 2 minutes. Come on back. Hello. 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 She winked at me. How fantastic. Hello. She's fantastic. You want to come up and wave at everybody? Want to come up and wave at everybody? Come on. Yeah, she does. She wants to come up and wave at everybody. You want to come up? Come on up and wave. Come on. Come on. Get Fruit Loops. Come on. Come on. Here, can I hold you? There we go. There we go. Look at this. You want to wave at everybody? There you go. Pleasure. How could you not be passionate about that? Bye-bye. Listen, I hope that introduction taught you just a little something. I hope that introduction taught you that you no longer have to small talk. Maybe that was a little bit of small talk at the beginning, but as soon as you got into it, you started caring about somebody. There's a word called prejudice. Prejudice, really, just as I define it, it's prejudgment. Mostly inappropriate prejudgment. Sometimes prejudice does us good service. It stops us from going up and hugging mountain lions on a street, kind of thing. But on the other hand, most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time, prejudice is something inappropriate that we foist upon somebody else. There's not a single person in this room, by the way, that hasn't been a victim of inappropriate prejudgment. Everybody here in this room has been a victim of it. And the only way that you can no longer be a victim of it is by stepping out into the world and telling people who you are. Say, listen, this is what I'm excited about. This is why I do what I do. This is why I'm passionate. These are the things that make me tick. And if people still judge you, well then forget them. I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say something else, but forget them. I've been warned. Family audience. But seriously, your job is to walk around the world letting people know who you are so they have to understand the humanity behind you. Look, there are a couple of introductions I could give of myself. One of them looks something like my resume. Hi, I'm Keith Ferrazzi, Yale undergraduate, Harvard Business School, first and youngest partner ever elected at Deloitte & Touche Consulting Group. I was 40 years younger than anybody else on the board at Deloitte when I was chief marketing officer of the firm at 28 years old. I then went on to be an officer in the Fortune 500 when I was chief marketing officer of Starwood Hotels. I left there, started a company with Michael Milken out in Los Angeles. We sold that successfully about 5 years ago. I started Ferrazzi Greenlight, offices in New York and LA, go back and forth between my places about every week. I'm on the Today Show about once a month, starting a weekend talk show on CNBC. And I've got a New York Times bestseller, which happened in about a couple of months. Very excited about that. Nice to meet you. You know, some of you applaud, but most of you are sitting out there thinking, ass. I was given one bad word, and that was it, I promise. Why do you think that that is an introduction that I might have given of myself as I was going up through the trajectory of my career when I was younger? Anybody have an idea? Exactly. Somebody said, because I went to Harvard Business School. In other words, translation, because you were an ass. But I heard it right down here, and the answer is insecurity. Insecurity. I got to tell you something. I am perhaps, and have been perhaps, one of the most insecure people I've ever met. And it may not be projected that way, but that's just my facade. And in actuality, we all have facades. I actually think that only about 5% of the world are truly jerks. Unfortunately, about 45% more look like they are. But I was one of those 45% that looked like I did. And it was because of another introduction I could give of myself that's a little bit different. I go something like, hi, my name's Keith Ferrazzi. Grew up in Pittsburgh. Anybody here from Pittsburgh? Yes! By the way, anybody here from Seattle? Remember the Super Bowl? Just... So I was brought up in Pittsburgh. My dad was a steel worker, and my mom was a cleaning lady. And God bless them, they had a commitment to make sure that their son had an amazing education. And they did. They got me into one of the most private, small, elite elementary schools that you could possibly imagine. Literally, it was on the Mellon Estate, and there were only about, I guess there were about 8 kids in my entire 5th grade class. Now, we would come driving up in our beat-up green Nova with rust spots, and they would have their Lincoln Town cars and their nannies driving them up in their Mercedes-Benz. And it was okay. I mean, obviously, the education was amazing, but simple things like where you got your school uniform. You had to buy your school uniform at Brooks Brothers. So what did we do? My mom was a smart lady. She had a relationship with a woman down at the local Salvation Army. And I used to remember when we'd get that call that said there was a green blazer in my size, come down and try it on. And we'd come down and I'd hide in the racks of clothes for fear that one of my friends' parents would come in with my friends, dropping off their clothes, seeing that I was shopping at the Salvation Army. You know, and then of course somebody in my 5th grade class, her name is Connie Semler, by the way. Anybody in here ever thought about writing a book? A couple of people? Do. It's a wonderful opportunity for revenge. It's just great. I tell all these stories in the book. It's fun. So Connie found Armor Melon's name written in the back of my jacket and told everybody in the school, you know, that I was buying my clothes at a nearly new shop. It crushed me. But it was just one of many incidents, and it made me feel what? How did I feel? I felt terribly insecure. I didn't feel like I was good as the rich kids. I didn't feel like I was as good as the rich kids. And by the way, that sentence can be filled in by every one of you with something at the end. I didn't feel as good as blank. I didn't feel as good as the white people. I didn't feel as good as the guys. I didn't feel as good as the people with hair. I didn't feel as good as the thin people, the blonde people. I don't care what it is. There's not a single person in this room, the young people, there's not a single person in this room, and I swear to God I wasn't looking at anybody particularly when I said any of those things. I wasn't. There's not a single person in this room who hasn't felt that at some point in your lives. There's not a single client of yours that hasn't felt that at some point in their lives. What are your jobs? Your jobs are to give them the affirmation. Your jobs are to show up in this world having the kind of confidence in yourselves to act almost as a beacon for those individuals. But in the same regard, the way you do that is by showing your vulnerability. This struggling mentality. There's a wonderful friend of mine and a business partner by the name of Maury Shackman, who is a phenomenal man. Some of you may have heard him speak in the past. He's just got an amazing soul. He identifies behaviors that we all have that he calls familiars. Familiar behaviors that we keep creating and they get in our way of success, etc. You know, for me, this sense of insecurity that I've always had, this sense of struggling, the scarcity that I've always grown up with, I keep in my life today. I've recently become single as of January. And as a result of that, I had to get into Los Angeles single shape. What is Los Angeles single shape? Basically, it's like drop 15 pounds and head to the gym, okay? Now with that, I live from meal to meal, desperately afraid and terrified that I won't find Splenda. I mean, it's the only sweetness, for gosh sakes, that I have in my life these days is Splenda, okay? So I get on an airplane or I go to a talk or a speech or something and they don't have it and I panic. So what do? You know, this is a full-paying speaking gig for me. You know, this is a good gig, all right? I'm really excited about being here for a lot of reasons. You know, Bob Kerrigan happens to be a good friend. I am a policy holder. You know, I feel strongly about being here. But what do? I come to a gig like this and I go to the coffee room, I steal your Splenda. I swear, I stash it because I know that, like, you know, Western Airlines or whatever is not going to have it going back. That's sick behavior. We all have this stuff in our life. It stops me from taking my 30-person company and turning it into 3,000 people overnight. You know, I struggle like you do as entrepreneurs. We all do. We all do these kind of things to ourselves. But my point to you is now just stop. What did you just experience with me? What kind of a transformation did I just make in your eyes? I went from being some swaggering speaker who is the worst connected individual and I've moved to an individual who you might have some empathy for, who you might look at and say, hey, I can identify with that individual. That person's got some stuff that I can trust, that I can perhaps believe in. What I might say, the words that I use might have ring a little bit more true now because you know a little bit more about me. I want that for you. I want that for you and your clients. I want that for you in your next sales call. I want that for you in your office. As leaders, I want that for you and your team, and you can do it. It's your responsibility to move every relationship just 2 more steps toward being a deeper, closer personal relationship by moving up that intimacy pyramid, by being genuine, by sharing your passions, but ultimately by letting people know that you struggle. You're human. You've got fears, you've got vulnerabilities, but so do your clients. I got to tell you, when I first met Bob, Bob was a lifesaver for me. One of my biggest familiars was conflict avoidance. It was really difficult for me to look at somebody and say, you disappoint me. I was really good at the glad-handing stuff, but I was really difficult at the conflict stuff. Anybody else have that problem? A few of you? probably a lot more of you than you think. But Bob also made me realize that I was conflict avoidant with my money. From my perspective, I've always done well because I had this hyper ambition. So as far as I was concerned, if the card went in and money came out, I was happy. I didn't have to look at what was behind the scenes. And he sat me down and he forced me to look at my finances. God, thank you, Bob. Thank you. He's reclaimed a part of my life that I was afraid of. You do that for your clients every day. And God bless every one of you in here for taking the mission of this company so seriously, to bring Northwestern Mutual as closely to the public and the consumers through your individual relationships with them. The brand comes alive. You are the brand every day that you're out there. You need to get practice at doing this. You get into your own heads and you think that you got to be perfect. You think that people come to you because they're expecting so much from you. You know what? They want to trust you. The only differentiation in this marketplace, the only differentiation in financial services is you. It's not your products. Yes, they're clever. Yes, your performance is above average. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Because as soon as the next competitor walks in the door and talks to somebody, all they've got to say is one little thing. It's like, oh, well, Northwestern this. And all of the credibility and the exceptional nature of who you are as a company and the brands just go out the door. Because at the end of the day, it's the relationships that define your success. It's the relationships that define your product. You define your product. And it's not all the fancy stuff that goes on behind. It's this stuff. How are you doing that? Let your guards down. How many of you know somebody? How many of you know somebody that you'd like to get to know better, but you just can't get through because they've got this wall up? Anybody know such a person? Raise your hands. Anybody married to that person? One. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. There's probably every one of you in this room that somebody could say that about you. Please don't be that person, because you've got to let your guards down. And those guards all have different colors and shapes and sizes, and those walls are painted with pretty different, images and murals and graffiti or whatever. But at the end of the day, they're all the same thing. How many of you have friends that are jerks? Raise your hands. You know it's possible. You know you can get behind those walls. You got to let those guards down. I want you to go back to the person you just introduced yourself to. This is a powerful and an opportunity. This is a room of compatriots, of associates and friends who can care about each other, that can work for each other. What are you struggling with? What is your greatest struggle today? Justice Bryan of the Supreme Court once said that it is sunlight which is the greatest disinfectant. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, meaning that the stuff that we hold inside, that we keep to ourselves, it erodes us. It's like a cancer inside of us. And if you let it out, it stops having control over you. Take the stuff that's inside of you, that you're struggling with and worried about, and bring it out. You're going to get 2 minutes to have a conversation about right now. What are you struggling with? Take a risk. Talk to that person. Have that conversation right now. How'd that feel? Thank you. I bet you found two things. Number one, how many of you found that the thing that the person was sharing with you was something you had experienced yourself or had full empathy for? Raise your hands. Like all of you. Get over yourselves. You're not unique. This is the stuff that makes you human, not stuff you should be ashamed of. Your clients are feeling this kind of stuff. How many of you found that as that person began to share with you, you began to care more for them? Actually, don't raise your hands. What happens like one of you didn't or something? Traumatize your partner there. Of course you did. That makes you human. I want that for you. You deserve that. You deserve that in all of your relationships. This afternoon in the breakout, I know only about 800 of you have registered for this thing, but In the breakout, we're gonna get into the 7-stage process for personal relationship management. It's a fail-proof process that anybody who has had extraordinary success in their lives with and through other people have actually achieved and used. So we're going to be digging into that deeply. You know, the other way you can get some more of this information on my website, there's a tip of the week that you can get for free. There's a lot of this information I'm going to be putting up there for you all on the website as well, just nevereatalone.com. It's real simple. I just want you to keep practicing this stuff. But what I really want you to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do very quickly is run through, actually I don't have time for that. Let me talk about one other stage of the process. The 7 stages are focus, get clarity around what you want to achieve. Target, identify the most critical, I often say, the 250 most important people to your life's success. Very broadly defined, and we're going to be going through an exercise this afternoon on that. Focus, target, diagnose the stuff that's holding you back, the familiars that Maury Sheckman talks about. Focus, target, diagnose, define. Now I'm going to spend a second on this. Define your product. Really, the way I like to think about it is it's defining your generosity. When you reach out to the world, there's also a generosity pyramid. The generosity pyramid starts with being intimate. The most intimate thing you can do walking around the world is what you just did. What a beautiful gift to give somebody. The next level up is have a great product. Well, Northwestern's already done that for you. They've provided a great product. But the next level up is provide a great business solution around that product. You know, Bob has become my HR executive, my CFO, my member of my board. He's provided for me not just a very generous product, but a solution to make my business more successful. But then at the very tip of the generosity pyramid, of the product that every one of you offers as you reach out into the world, is very simple. Looking somebody in the eye and saying, I want you to be more successful. What are your dreams? What do you want to achieve in this world? And how can we get there together? It's as simple as that. That's the kind of success. That's the kind of product that you're really offering to the world. Look, I know that sometimes this becomes challenging and difficult. I'll give you 2 quick stories in closing, and we'll tell a lot more this afternoon. One of them is recently I was in front of a group, not unlike this size, frankly. I was very excited about being in front of a group of folks down in Radio City Music Hall. And as I was about to walk on stage, I became panicked. Not because being in front of a group of people makes me panic. Frankly, television makes me panicked. Live audiences, for some reason, don't. But I was panicked because I found out I was going on right after Rudy Giuliani. And then after me was Colin Powell. I sat there thinking like I had just driven up in a beat-up green Nova with rust spots. I mean, I felt so insecure. And like I really deserved to be there. And in the room, in the green room in the back, walked Richard Branson, from Virgin. And I'm sitting there, and I'm so excited because I've always wanted to meet Richard Branson. And I got up out of my chair, and I started walking over to him, and I choked. And I went and sat down. And I went and sat down because I was sitting there thinking, look, with Jack Welch sitting over there talking to Colin Powell, if they see me over there fawning on Richard Branson, they're going to know that I don't deserve to play in this sandbox. I wasn't one of the big boys. I didn't feel as good as the rest of those guys. And I sat and I thought to myself, read your damn book. So I got up. There's a chapter in the book called Audacity. I got up and I walked over and I said, Mr. Branson, I got to tell you, you walked in the room and I was intimidated. I've been wanting to meet you for a long time. And he looked at me and he said, well, it's nice to meet you, Keith. I'm like, you know who I am? He's like, no, you're wearing a name tag. And I said, well, where do you go from there? I said, well, recently I wrote a book. And he said, I know you wrote a book. He said, because 5 of my friends have sent me that book. And we went on to talk. But by the way, it's a great lesson. One of the 7 steps is called align. If you just tell everybody that loves you and cares about you that you want to achieve X, Y, and Z, and you want to meet these kind of people, you will be shocked as to how many people will respond and be there for you. Just aligning your own backyard, the people in your church, your friends, your family, etc. So we started talking, and literally in minutes, we found a mutual passion around health and wellness. He picked up the phone, he called the CEO of a new company that he's starting around virgin health and wellness. And at the end of the day, we're now doing business together. I sat and I was like, this stuff works. It really does. Listen, the story that I reached in and grabbed was a very simple story. I was 8 years old. I was driving down the road with my dad, and we had been unemployed for 6 months. It was going to be a tough Christmas. It was November. And in the process of going down the street, my dad saw a big wheel. This was something I wanted on my Christmas list. You know, one of those three-wheel tricycle things. Saw a big wheel in someone's trash, and he pulled off to the side of the road. He got out of the car, and he didn't just grab the big wheel because that wouldn't have taught his son integrity. He walked up the sidewalk. A 55-year-old proud steelworker walked up the sidewalk. He was about to ask people whether or not he could have this big wheel out of the trash for his son's Christmas. How do you think he felt? How do you think this man felt? But I got to tell you, Dad used to always say to me, don't ever be afraid to ask. The worst anybody could ever say is no. Take that to heart as you walk out into this world. But there's a bigger lesson that I learned today, and it was a lesson that woman taught us. She came to the door, and she was so excited. She was like, of course you can have the big wheel. My grandkids have recently moved away. Not only can you have the big wheel, but, well, you know, we've got bikes. We've got bikes that we didn't have the heart to throw away. Would your son like a bike? Well, I'll go one step further. We've got a go-kart. Do you think your son would like a go-kart? I had the best damn Christmas. I was home this past Christmas, driving by that house on my way to see Mom. Dad's passed away since. And as I drove by that house, I thought about that woman. It wasn't us that got the gift that Christmas season. She did. My dad gave her one of the most beautiful and wonderful gifts that Christmas season. Imagine how she felt being able to help that family. There are people sitting in this audience right now next to you that would love you to be more successful. I want you to achieve your dreams. There are people and clients you are about to cold call these next 2 weeks that will end up being relationships like the one I now have with Bob Kerrigan. There are so many people around you that want you to be successful. Let them help you. That's the lesson I walked away from there today. And that's the lesson I want to have each of you take out into this world. Let your guards down. Let the world help you. God bless.
Keith Ferrazzi is widely regarded as a thought leader, deeply understanding your business and the broader marketplace in which it operates. Executive conferences, Fortune 500 companies, Ivy League schools have all learned from Keith's expertise in sales, marketing, relationships, career development, and leadership. Thousands of readers and audience members improved their profitability and enhanced their business by implementing Keith's concepts. Keith never leaves an audience without a handful of actionable next steps, which they can apply when they walk out of the room to your business and their lives.
The relationships in your life are critical to your success. Right now, the break is an opportunity. Work the breaks. You know, don't go back and check your email. That's what BlackBerries are for in here. You should be doing your email in here while this...
But I thought that was just tremendous. I sat there myself thinking, this is one of those people that you just wish you had met 20 years earlier. It was very, very powerful. Outstanding. Outstanding.
We as leaders need to be more transparent. We need to talk about the stuff that's going on in our life.
People don't and shouldn't see us as unapproachable.
Keith Ferrazzi is one of the rare individuals to discover the essential formula for making his way to the top through a powerful, balanced combination of marketing acumen and networking savvy.
But we all have stuff that we put out there that prevents people from getting to know us. Sometimes it's our own defensive mechanisms. And part of me is to try to say, lower those walls.
The more you let your guards down, the more vulnerable you are, the more transparent you are, the more obvious it is that you're actually a person.
Keith Ferrazzi is the best-selling author of Never Eat Alone and Other Secrets to Success, One Relationship at a Time. One of the best business books of 2005 and 2006, and a New York Times bestseller. Get your audience on their feet and build deeper relationships right in the room. Keith will help your organization develop deeper relationships with customers and prospects. Bond closely within and across divisions and functional lines. Ferrazzi has been widely recognized by his peers, has been the feature or author of numerous articles for leading business publications, and is a frequent contributor to CNN and CNBC.
I mean, the key to being successful is showing up and making other people successful. And there's so many people out there that want to help you. So the first thing you have to do is focus on them. It's about generosity.
Because you say diversify your friends, meaning what specifically?
Well, you're young, old, make sure different jobs, different professions, etc. You got to keep yourself alive with new inputs, different inputs from different sides all over the place.
Now the question is, how do you walk around the world opening yourself up to let the people that you need to meet in? Because if I walk around not keeping score, but being more generous, then I'm going to have great relationships that are deep, that'll be there when I screw up, and I will. I'm so desperate to make a difference in this world. I really want to make a legacy that I can look back on and say, I made a difference in people's lives.
The relationships in your life are critical to your success. All relationships are personal relationships. I think that's important to hear. I don't care. I hear these words business relationships. They don't exist. All relationships are personal relationships. And the core to all relationships have two things: intimacy and generosity.
Author and master networker Keith Ferrazzi says you can learn to make it second nature and end up with a lifelong community of colleagues, contacts, friends, and mentors. It's all in his new book, Never Eat Alone and Other Secrets to Success, One Relationship at a Time.
Everything you've ever wanted to achieve in life has been achieved by the help of others. Every dream that you have is because and will happen with other people. So number one, you can't get there alone. Get that in your head.
This is going to be a great show. We've got a diverse group of individuals, from actors and actresses to people who have climbed mountains to people who have fled Beirut. The bottom line is, it's all about relationships. It's about the relationships in our life and how those relationships have made us a success. This is going to be a great show.
This is one of those people that you just wish you had met 20 years earlier. It was very, very powerful. Outstanding. Outstanding.
I started showing up saying, no, I'm going to walk around this room and I'm just going to see if there's some people that I bond with that I think I can make successful in some way, or I can be helpful to. Because if you make that commitment today, at least in this room, then there's going to be hundreds of other people trying to do that for you. Skip the small talk. I don't care if it's a cocktail party, coffee hour, or your next sales call. You've got to make sure that you become intimate with somebody. Get to the stuff that really matters. It's not about the weather, I guarantee you. That will not be memorable. Go for the stuff about your passions. Ask people what they're grateful for. Talk about the things that you've struggled with throughout your life. Those are the things that will be remembered. Skip the small talk.
We make some mistakes when we leave the workforce that set us up to fail. So help us leave graciously.
Well, I think the first thing that you need to do is, on your way out, know what you want to do when you come back. Keep focused and make specific goals for yourself. Have a plan that's 5 years out. And yes, you've got this wonderful new baby that you want to devote all your energies to,
right.
But keep 25% of your energy for yourself and making sure that you have some aspirations that you can stay focused on. Build it before you need it. I get calls all the time. Hey Keith, I'm about to become unemployed, or I've just gotten unemployed. I need to begin networking. I'm like, no loser, you need to start job hunting.
Networking is what your sorry butt should have been doing for the past 5 years so that you can now have 20 great friends and associates who are there to help you. Build it before you need it. Hey, we're here with Arianna Huffington. A lot of people know her as a political thinker, populist intellectual, media star, but now budding entrepreneur with the Arianna Huffington Post. Arianna, what did you learn from that relationship that you didn't carry into future relationships?
Oh, nothing.
So the audacity came from that desperation.
You've often talked about your epiphany. Was that your epiphany?
Yeah, it was definitely an epiphany. It's an inside job. I mean, at the end of the day, life is an inside job. Mm-hmm. The spirit to keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. That's a great way to think about the concept of audacity. You were able to work your way out of the homeless shelter.
Yes.
Get a real job.
Yes.
You saved $7,000. After saving $7,000, you went out and decided, damn it, here's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to start my own business.
Yes.
And I am going to do what I've been doing to earn that $7K, but I'm going to do it myself. And you did. You set up yourself a nice little office. You're all grooving. And in less than a few weeks, you lose most of your money. In fact, you're now $1,200 in debt.
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
Let's toast to this accumulated group of individuals, to the people in our lives, to the success we've had, and the recognition that the people in our lives make us a success.
Oh, that's right. Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.